It's Swami time. It's Swami time. It is Swami time. Hey guys, welcome to the Family Feud Week 10 edition of Swami. I'm going to get right into it. I'm going to talk a little bit about playoff standings right now as we speak, and then just going to do some really quick picks. No graphics or anything this week. We've got big snowstorm coming in, 3 to 6 inches tonight. Got to get some things ready, so going to pop this in, get it uploaded, get the picks out there. So here we go. First, let's talk about where we stand playoff setting wise. First of all, the buys. Your buys are obviously Dirte, 8-1. Most points scored in the league, just running away with it. He's having career years from everybody. He's got McCaffrey chasing history. He's got Dalvin Cook having a career year. Cooper Kupp's having a career year. New England is having a career defensively. Goff has not hurt him at all. He just gets production everywhere. To go along with that, I actually looked at it, he has the least points scored against him. Think about that for a second. He scores like he does. No one ever scores against him. It's unbelievable. On a run of luck like I've never seen and probably will never be matched again in the history of our league. Now, whether he finishes it off this year, yet to see. He's still got some teams that are chasing him. Now, that's the first buy, number 1 overall seed. Number 2 overall seed went from number 5 to number 1, or number to division buy last week was Rabbis. Hasn't really seemingly paid a lot of attention to it, has not been active on the waiver wire, has not done many ad drops, but here he gets his New Orleans Saints back. He's sitting at 5-4. The reason that he hopped over Boats, who has scored more than he has, is he has a better division record. It's 4-1 in the division versus 3-2. There was some discussion earlier this week on our group text about why does division not come into play when it comes to playoff spots. We can't do it that way because you're pulling teams from across divisions. Division standings only come into play when you're going for the division's championship. Anybody needs clarification on that, call me. I'll explain it to you. But Rabbi sits with a first round bye right now, so big game this week. He plays Boats and Hoes. We'll see how that goes. We'll talk about that here in a minute. Your number 3 overall seed, super solid in his first year, is Sam Houston's Hellraisers. Sits at 6-3. He's our second highest scoring team. Scoring high every week, and he's getting it done. And he hasn't, no smoke and mirrors. He's active on the waiver wire. He plugs in. He makes good additions to his team, and he had a good draft. So great addition, sitting there at the number 3 spot, firmly locked into the playoffs. Our number 4 overall seeds is Boats and Hoes, sitting at 5-4. He's currently on a skid, lost a couple in a row after sitting on top of the division, seemingly having it under wraps, in the first round bye. But now he's out of that spot and he's sitting in the number 4 hole. So he's going to have to continue. He's going to have to win going forward because you got some teams chasing him as well. Sitting in the 5 holes, Dreadheads. Dreadhead's been pretty fortunate. He's one of the lowest scoring teams in the league. He's 5-4. He sits in the 5 spot, but he has not had very many points scored against him. That's just as important sometimes. Let's pull those up real quick. That's just as important sometimes when it comes to getting into the playoffs, is how much gets scored against you on a week to week. If you can eke out some of those wins early in the season or mid-season, where your team's not at its best, that's huge, and it goes a long way. That's why it stings so much when you score high and lose, because you know that it's going to come into play. But he's sitting there in the 5 spot at 5-4. And then our 6th overall seed and last playoff spot goes to Crimson Rain. He's on a run after starting and thinking he was going to get the number 1 pick. Now he's starting to get healthy again, getting hot. He is one of the higher scoring teams in the league. Matter of fact, he sits in the number 4 spot. Sorry, in the number 5 spot. Terriers did pass him. But he has got a lot more. Young Guns also has the same record as Crimson Rain at 4-5, but he scored almost 120 points less than Crimson. And that's why Crimson gets the last playoff spot, because when it comes to playoff seedings, you don't talk about division or anything. Actually, I'm sorry. The tiebreaker in this particular case is head-to-head. Crimson holds the head-to-head advantage over Young Guns. I'm going to clarify this. When it comes to getting into the playoffs, If there are two teams tied for the final playoff spot, your first tiebreaker is head-to-head. If there are three or more teams tied going in, it goes to total points. So, since they are the only two teams that are sitting at 4 and 5, it goes to a head-to-head matchup. Crimson owns the head-to-head over Young Guns, hence he's in the playoffs. But Young Guns is sitting right there. And he'll get another crack at Crimson to even the head-to-head series. He's just going to have some ground to make up in the points. Sitting on the outside looking in, you've got Triple T's at 3 and 6, a game back. The advantage that he has is if he can somehow force a three-way tie for the last playoff spot, he's got a high total of points, which could, possibly get him in. But we got 4 weeks to go. There's a lot of football to play. Orange Crush sitting at 2 and 7. She's 2 games out. I tipped my cap to her last week. She traded all her players off, got a bevy of picks for next year, still scored over 100 points and made a game out of it. Came down to a nail biter. Let's see if she can continue to do that forward so we don't have too much of a competitive advantage throughout the end of the year. But there's your playoff scenarios. Let's get into the picks this week. First game we're going to talk about is Sam Houston's Hellraisers at Orange Crush. Hellraisers are a pretty big favorite at this time right now. RT has them like a 15.5 point favorite. Stafford's been killing it. Gets David Johnson back. We'll see how he's going to do. They're supposed to feed the ball to Beckham. Galladay's been fantastic. And Crush, although her lineup's doing good, she's piecing it together and putting people in, and she still has Russell Wilson in some pieces. I just see too much of Hellraisers here, so Hellraisers by 8 in this one. Next game is Nerds at Dreadheads. It's a huge game for Nerds. Going back. Nerds is also only a game out of the last spot. He sits at 3 and 6. That's why this is a big game for him, because he needs to win to get into that possibility of talking about a tie so he can get in the playoffs or just keep winning. His squad's back to full strength. I mean, he's got Breeze, Bell, Gurley, Chubb, Tyreek Hill, McCole Hardman. If you're betting on Kansas City that big and your 2 starting wide receivers are Kansas City, I don't know if that's what he's going to do going forward because he's got Cortland Sutton. But of all the weeks to have 2 Kansas City receivers, this is the one because Mahomes is back for the Dreads. Picks up Damian Williams, so he's got a lot riding on Kansas City as well. Melvin Gordon starting to look like Melvin Gordon after last week. And Ronald Jones is another plug-in for him with Fournette on bye. Both teams, they look pretty similar to me, actually, and the spread reflects it. As of right now, Nerds is favored by 4.5 on RT. That is with no kicker in by Dreads, which he'll upgrade that. So it's almost a dead heat when it comes to projected points. I'm going to go with the Dreads here because I think his matchups, when I look across the board at it, I think we get a Thursday night semi-shootout. I think Melvin Gordon has a good game. I'm reversing Fields. Going with the Nerds in an upset. Till I can see Dreadhead score some points consistently. Going with Nerds. I think he's had a tough row of it lately. There you go. Might as well. Dirte, 8-1 against Crimson Rain. I love Crimson's team, and he's scoring a ton, but there's no possible way to pick against Dirte. The only thing I can say is Tyler Lockett, who's been absolutely crushing it of late, especially last week, gets the San Francisco defense, which is a tough get. Dalvin Cook is going against Cowboys rush defense, which is a tough get. I'm going to do it here. I'm calling for the upset. I'm calling for Crimson Rain to continue his bomb cyclone run and knock off the unbeatable Dirte. I have not done that, and I said I wouldn't do it, but really like what I see from Crimson's team this week. He's favored right now by RT. There it is. I'm calling it. Crimson wins. Triple T's at Young Guns. Triple T's is a big favorite in this, according to RT. But Triple T's has had the most points scored against him in the league. So you got to expect Young Guns is going to have a big game this week. Rogers is going to have a good game. Ty Johnson is projected actually to have a good game this week. Emmanuel Sanders is starting to bloom in the San Francisco offense. Devontae Adams is probably another week healthy. I'm just not going to, although RT has Triple T's as a 20-point favorite this week, and his team looks pretty good, not going to do it. Young Guns by 1 in a high-scoring game. Game of the week, Boats and Hoes at Rabbis. This is for division supremacy. It goes a long way to see who gets the bye in that division. I can't really say a whole lot about Rabbi's lineup. I don't see it set right now, so I'm going to assume that he puts Kamara in. I'm going to assume that he puts Michael Thomas back in. Those are his 2 New Orleans guys. They're going against a hapless Atlanta defense, so he should have big games from them if Kamara gets a full workload. Dak's been good. Breida, don't really know what you're going to get out of San Francisco with those running backs. Who's going to get the carries? Should be good. I mean, it's not going to be huge, but Amari Cooper's been fantastic, but he's a little bit banged up. Then we go over to Boats and we look at them. Lamar Jackson's sick this week. He missed practice. I heard Mark Ingram was a little banged up. Zeke should have a relatively good game. Minnesota can put up a fight against the run. Then Diggs and Godwin. His team looks good. They're not peaking as much as they were a few weeks back. It's really gonna come down to whether New Orleans goes off with Kamara. I think Latavius Murray has shown enough that he's going to get into those carries a little bit. And Lamar Jackson's been awful good, and he's going up against Cincinnati, who's hopeless. Let's go Boats in the game of the week. Boats gets this one by 2, and there you go. There's your Swami. Sorry it wasn't more. No bells and whistles this week, so got some shit to do. Peace out.